The council chamber carried the low hum of arrogance. Young officers straightened their uniforms, eager to boast of conquest and glory. Maps of stellar territories flickered in projection above them, glowing red where the human frontier was marked. The word Terran was spoken with the casual disdain one uses for a pest species. To them, humanity was nothing more than a half-forgotten remnant, primitive, stubborn, and doomed. They laughed about how no envoy from Earth had appeared in centuries, how humans had refused to join the wider galactic order, how silence from their sector could only mean weakness. The laughter died only when the captain spoke. His voice was not loud, it did not need to be. A quiet tone carried more weight than the general's bravado. No ship returns from human space. Some scoffed, exchanging smirks. One leaned forward and asked, almost mocking, "Old soldier tales, Captain? Ghost stories for hatchlings?" The captain's eyes did not flinch. His face was lined with the sort of scars that had nothing to do with flesh, scars carved by memory. He repeated, slower, quieter, as though pronouncing a law of physics, "No ship returns." A younger commander tried to laugh it off, citing reports of failed expeditions. "Ships vanish because they wander too deep, engines fail, routes collapse. Humans have nothing to do with it. They live on a small blue world clinging to myths. They have no empire, no allies, no voice. Why fear silence?" The captain turned his gaze toward the map, the Terran border glowing faintly in crimson. "Because silence," he said, "is a weapon." The chamber shifted uneasily. The captain's reputation was not that of a drunkard muttering legends. He had commanded victories across 3 wars, held medals for bravery, and led men into fires no one else dared cross. His words were rarely wasted. And though he offered no detail, his tone made even the most arrogant officer hesitate. Yet pride is heavier than wisdom. The Supreme Admiral raised a hand and dismissed the concern. "This council does not build strategy on superstition. Humans isolate themselves, nothing more. Their quiet is fear. And fear is an invitation." He outlined the coming campaign. The fleet would move into Terran space, secure outer colonies, demand surrender, strip resources. It would be swift, decisive, glorious. Younger officers erupted in applause. The captain did not join them. He sat still, hands clasped, remembering what he had once seen in the void. The room around him blurred in his mind with a memory: ships burning without fire, signals cut mid-scream, an entire squadron erased without a trace. He remembered his own escape, not by victory, but by abandonment. He had never spoken of it in detail, because words could not frame the terror of silence pressing against the hull, of unseen eyes watching from shadows deeper than space itself. A junior lieutenant beside him whispered, "If you truly believe, why not resign your commission? Why remain?" The captain's expression barely shifted. "Because," he said, "someone must remember." The meeting adjourned with cheers of conquest, predictions of triumph, and the giddy confidence of those who had never bled in the dark. The fleet would depart within days. Officers strutted through the halls like hunters preparing for sport. Yet, as they passed, a few stole glances at the captain, unsettled by the weight of his words. No one dared confront him openly. No one wanted to believe. Later, in the quiet of his quarters, the captain stared at the stars through the viewport. Beyond those stars, beyond the thin veil of mapped routes, lay that forbidden frontier. He whispered to himself the same warning he had given the council, not as fear but as fact. No ship returns. He wondered if, this time, his voice would be the last carried back before silence swallowed them all. He did not sleep that night. Soldiers who believe in ghosts can rest. Soldiers who know the ghosts are real cannot. The fleet slipped past the last known boundary markers of civilized space and entered the uncharted veil where human stars began. At first there was nothing remarkable. No patrols, no warning beacons, no automated defenses. The void stretched quiet and endless, broken only by the soft hum of engines and the chatter of officers who mistook emptiness for safety. To them, it was confirmation of arrogance. If humanity truly possessed power, why leave their frontiers bare? why leave silence as their only guardian? The captain remained expressionless as younger commanders mocked the myth. They took pride in announcing how unopposed the advance had been, cataloging systems as prizes before they were even touched. They treated empty star maps as conquests already secured. But as each light year passed, the captain noticed details the others overlooked. A satellite drifting too perfectly aligned with their course. A wreck of a ship that bore scars no natural accident could have made. An orbital platform long dead but positioned as if placed deliberately to watch intruders. Nothing shouted danger, yet nothing felt natural. A scout vessel was dispatched toward a nearby planet. Its descent was casual, almost careless, as if the crew believed they were entering a graveyard of cowards. Minutes passed. Then an hour. No transmission returned. The flagship called, systems pinged, signals cascaded across bands. Nothing answered. The vessel was gone. No explosion detected, no emergency beacon, not even the flicker of a dying engine. It had simply vanished, as though the void had swallowed it whole. Nervous murmurs spread, but pride is stubborn. A Commodore declared engine failure, another suggested mutiny, a third claimed gravitational anomalies. Excuses became shields against the truth. Yet the captain heard something different, faint static brushing the edge of calms. He ordered silence on the bridge, straining against the interference. Beneath the static came a single distorted sound, a voice, not alien, not mechanical, but a scream. One sharp cry, cut mid-breath, before silence consumed it again. The younger officers shifted in their seats. Some attempted jokes, but their words rang hollow. Confidence cracked, though none admitted it aloud. The captain closed his eyes and whispered to himself. The first warning. Days stretched onward. Each system revealed the same picture, abandonment without explanation. Cities on moons lay untouched, structures intact but lifeless. Stations floated in perfect condition yet unpowered. It was as if whole populations had vanished, leaving their works behind like traps waiting to be sprung. The fleet's navigators noticed that wreckage of old expeditions often rested at the edges of major routes, as though placed to mark invisible borders. They appeared like gravestones aligned to spell a message only fear could translate. Another ship disappeared while charting an asteroid belt. This time, fragments of its hull were found drifting, but no heat signature lingered, no weapons discharge registered. It looked less like battle and more like deliberate dismantling. A few junior officers demanded withdrawal, their voices breaking protocol, but command silenced them. The Supreme Admiral declared the disappearances irrelevant, insisting the humans had retreated deeper within, fearful of the inevitable. The fleet pressed on. The captain watched quietly, each step forward digging the grave deeper. He tried once, only once, to speak in council aboard the flagship. His words were simple. Every wreck we pass is a warning. Every silence is deliberate. You advance because you mistake the absence of noise for weakness. You are wrong. Silence is their weapon, and you are inside its reach already. His warning was dismissed as pessimism. Pride made the ears of leaders deaf. That night, the fleet intercepted another signal. It was faint, scattered by interference, but unmistakably alien. A ship outside their ranks was broadcasting an emergency code. The voice was ragged, filled with terror, repeating the same phrase in broken rhythm. Then, suddenly, the voice shifted. The language was their own, spoken perfectly, but the tone was wrong, too calm, too deliberate. The words were simple. You should not have come. Silence followed. The fleet moved on, but laughter no longer accompanied the officers' voices. Every crewman now felt the weight pressing down, the gnawing sense that the void itself was watching. The captain alone did not look unsettled, because he had always known. He carried the truth like a scar. He did not speak again, for there was no longer need to persuade. The darkness ahead would soon teach them what his voice could not. The first strike came without warning. A cruiser assigned to scan a dormant station approached with full shields and weapons armed. Nothing stirred on sensors. Then, without light or sound, the entire vessel fractured in silence. No flare of battle, no incoming fire detected. One moment the ship existed, the next it was a scattering of molten fragments drifting like dust. Alarms erupted across the fleet, but no enemy signature appeared. Officers demanded explanations, yet no theory could account for a kill so clean and invisible. Fear spread in the pauses between words. The Supreme Admiral barked orders to tighten formation. Escorts circled the flagships, weapons charged, every scanner pressed to maximum. Still the void gave nothing. The captain did not look at the wreckage. He watched the faces around him instead, the bravado draining from the eyes of young officers as they realized they had entered not empty territory, but a carefully prepared ground. His voice was calm, almost cold. You are inside their design. Every step you take is permitted, not earned. The Admiral ignored him, but silence had become heavier than command. Hours later, another signal emerged, not from humans but from their own lost scout. At first it seemed like a beacon recovered. Yet when the recording played, it was not distress, it was a deliberate taunt. Their own language broadcast back at them in flawless clarity. By the time you hear us, it is already too late. The words repeated 3 times, then cut to static. The crews shifted uneasily, glancing at their consoles as though expecting them to turn against them too. Attempts at retreat were debated in hushed tones. The Admiral insisted on advancing, declaring the humans cowards hiding behind tricks. He ordered probes sent forward in waves, but every probe vanished. Some returned only fragments of data, flashes of moving shadows, bursts of interference, readings that defied calibration. One probe caught a single image before destruction, a dead station igniting with life, weapons unfolding from its frame, targeting systems burning red. Then the signal went dark. The bridge fell silent. Ships began to scatter unintentionally, formations breaking as officers argued between obeying command or self-preservation. The captain spoke again, his tone sharper this time. Humans do not fight battles. They close traps. You are not opponents, you are prey within their cage. His words were not shouted, but the truth in them pressed against every mind present. Some believed, others clung to denial, but none could ignore the reality that each disappearance was not chance, it was intention. The next ambush proved him right. A flotilla maneuvered toward what appeared to be a derelict carrier. Its hull was broken, venting frozen gases, lights long dead. Then the wreck unfolded. Panels shifted, hidden engines roared, and the supposed corpse revealed itself as a weaponized decoy. Torpedoes launched point blank. 3 ships vaporized in a single volley, a 4th split in half by kinetic impact. The survivors fired wildly, but the station already went cold again, disappearing into silence as though it had never awakened. Terror consumed the ranks. Officers once arrogant now whispered about omens. Crews refused orders to push forward. Some screamed for retreat, others froze in silence. The Admiral threatened executions, but authority means little when death comes invisible. Panic travels faster than discipline. Every eye turned to the captain, not out of respect but out of desperation. He alone seemed steady in the storm, though his steadiness was born of grim certainty. Then the voice returned, no longer distorted, but clear, unmistakable, and human. The sound of a language alien to the galaxy yet translated flawlessly across every receiver. You have trespassed. None of you will leave. The tone was not shouted, not cruel, only final. A judgment pronounced, a sentence already carried out. Every ship fell silent at once. No chatter, no bravado, only the hum of systems and the echo of that voice pressing against their thoughts. The captain closed his eyes, hearing in it the inevitability he had carried alone for years. To him, it was not revelation, but confirmation. To the rest of the fleet, it was the first true glimpse of the nightmare they had walked into. They had come seeking conquest, but conquest had never been possible. They were not invaders, they were condemned. The first human strike hit with precision that shattered all illusions of chance. A destroyer leading the fleet's flank suddenly lost power, every system going black in unison. Moments later, it split apart as if cut from within, hull plating shearing in clean lines. No beam registered, no missile tracked. The crew barely had time to scream before silence claimed them. Panic swept the formation, but before orders could steady them, another ship followed, engines locked, shields dead, torn apart in seconds. The attackers remained unseen, as though the void itself had become their weapon. The admiral roared for retaliation, demanding blind fire across sectors, but firing into emptiness only drained energy reserves. The captain spoke flatly. They do not waste movement. Every attack is chosen, every strike is decisive. You cannot fight shadows with noise. His warning went ignored as commanders hurled volleys into nothingness. When the cannons fell silent, the silence answered with destruction. From the surface of a barren moon, batteries long disguised as rubble awakened. Lances of energy speared through the darkness, carving into exposed engines. Ships exploded like brittle glass. Fighters launched in defense, only to be torn apart by invisible nets, minefields hidden within gravity wells, detonating the moment thrusters brushed them. Survivors screamed over comms before transmissions cut to static. The fleet was unraveling, and still no enemy vessel appeared on sensors. Then the void shifted. Shadows moved where there should have been none. Shapes emerged not from hyperspace but from the darkness itself, sleek hulls blacker than the stars, surfaces swallowing light. Human warships. Dozens at first, then hundreds, surrounding the alien fleet with quiet precision. They had been there all along, waiting. Their silence had been the true ambush, patience sharpened into a blade. The aliens finally saw their enemy, and what they saw broke whatever courage remained. Human vessels bore no ornament, no banners, no signal of pride. Their design was brutal efficiency, machines built solely to kill. The first volley came not as warning but as execution. Coordinated strikes severed command ships, crippled carriers, and gutted escorts. Electronic warfare blinded sensors, scrambled comms, and rewrote navigation charts mid-battle. Entire squadrons drifted helplessly, targets stripped bare before annihilation. The admiral shouted for retreat, but every vector collapsed in flames. Exit routes were mined, hyperspace corridors jammed by precision interference. Escape was not blocked, it was anticipated, calculated, sealed. Ships attempting blind jumps reappeared shattered, their coordinates betrayed before they even launched. There was no retreat. The trap had closed fully. The captain stood among chaos, his face carved in grim acceptance. He spoke softly, though the bridge quaked with panic. They fight to end, not to deter. To them, mercy is an invitation for return. They do not allow second wars. His words cut deeper than any weapon, because the crew finally understood the truth. Humans were not defending territory. They were erasing intruders. Across the comms, fragments of human broadcasts reached them. Calm voices, neither angry nor triumphant, stating coordinates, calling kill confirmations, delivering orders with surgical precision. The language was foreign yet clear in translation, each syllable carrying the chill of inevitability. There was no rage, no hatred, only execution. The alien fleet collapsed in less than an hour. Hundreds of ships reduced to burning debris, survivors numbering only fragments of crews scattered in escape pods, drifting helpless. Human craft moved through the wreckage without pause, finishing crippled vessels methodically. Where an alien might leave a wounded enemy adrift, humans fired once more, ensuring no remnant lingered. Efficiency was their cruelty. For the first time, the admiral's voice broke into despair. He called for surrender, shouted across every channel, offering compliance, begging for quarter. The reply came not with negotiation but with cold finality. You entered our space. You will not leave. On the flagship's deck, silence consumed every soul. Officers who had once laughed at myths now trembled, staring at screens filled with destruction too swift to comprehend. The captain alone stood unshaken. He had warned them, carried the truth they refused to hear. Now that truth burned around them in the wreckage of their pride. He looked into the void where human ships glided like predators without mercy and whispered words meant only for himself. It was never a war. It was an execution. The battlefield was no longer a battle. It was wreckage scattered across the void, flames flickering silently in the vacuum as broken hulls drifted without purpose. Where a fleet of power and arrogance had once stretched proudly, only fragments now remained. The humans moved among them with methodical calm, finishing what little still clung to function. Every crippled ship received a final shot, every escape pod tracked, every signal silenced. The sky itself felt as if it had been claimed, not by conquest, but by inevitability. The Admiral, trembling with the realization of defeat, attempted one last appeal. His voice cracked as he transmitted across all channels, promising submission, resources, obedience, anything to survive. No answer came. Instead, human ships continued their quiet harvest, cutting away remnants until only silence remained. The plea for mercy vanished into the void like all other voices before it. The captain watched it unfold, not with surprise, but with grim recognition. He had known from the start this was the only ending possible. Yet even he had not expected the terrifying efficiency of the humans in victory. They wasted nothing, either time nor words. They did not taunt, did not gloat. Their vengeance was not fueled by emotion, but by purpose. Every movement declared a philosophy alien to most species: wars must never repeat. To them, leaving survivors was not leniency but a flaw. Enemies who lived would rise again. Humans ensured that never happened. From the darkness, a single transmission finally arrived. The voice was human, steady, without malice or triumph, spoken as though carved in stone. You entered uninvited. None of you will return. Carry this message back if you can, but know this: trespass into our sky again, and your kind will cease to exist. The signal ended. No negotiations followed, no conditions, no bargains. It was not diplomacy, it was judgment. The surviving fragments of the alien command realized the true horror. There would be no survivors to carry that warning. Already, human ships had begun dismantling escape pods one by one, targeting distress beacons before they could stabilize. Even the smallest fragment of resistance was hunted until nothing remained. It was not cruelty, it was certainty. Only silence would leave this battlefield. On the flagship's shattered bridge, fire danced in broken conduits. Officers huddled in despair, some praying to gods that had never answered them, others weeping openly, stripped of the arrogance they once carried like armor. The Admiral had collapsed into silence, the weight of annihilation pressing heavier than any battlefield wound. Amid the ruin, the captain stood straight, the last figure unbroken. His voice was low, meant only for those who could still hear him. This is why no ship returns. Because they do not allow witnesses. He turned his gaze toward the human fleet closing in, dark silhouettes against the stars. There was no rage in him now, only a bleak clarity. They had not come to conquer, they had come to erase. His words, once dismissed as superstition, now burned as undeniable truth. The others might perish not understanding, but he understood fully. The silence beyond human borders was not emptiness. It was the echo of every fleet that had entered and never returned. The final barrage struck. The flagship shuddered as fire tore through its core. Alarms screamed, then died as systems failed. In his last moment, the captain did not scream. He spoke quietly, repeating the words that would never reach the council, words destined to vanish into the void with him. No ship returns from human space. And then silence consumed all. Far from the battlefield, in the great halls of galactic power, time passed with no word from the expedition. Weeks became months, months turned to years. No distress signals arrived, no wreckage drifted back, no survivors limped home. For the galaxy, the absence was explanation enough. Whispers grew, spreading through markets, barracks, and palaces alike. At first, only in hushed tones, every ship sent into Terran space vanishes. Then the whispers hardened into law, into legend, into dread. Generals who once planned campaigns tore maps apart. Traders who dreamed of exploiting human resources erased routes from charts. Even the arrogant fell silent when the name of humanity was spoken. There was no propaganda, no declarations, no proof. Only silence. and silence was louder than any proclamation. In the end, the captain had been right all along. His warning had not saved them, but it lived on as a truth no one dared test again. The legend of humanity's frontiers spread not through survivors, but through the void itself, through the certainty that where humans dwelled, intruders would vanish. The phrase became a whisper carried across stars, spoken quietly in every council, every fleet, every academy. No ship returns from human space.